This is Scott from KIG. It's February 20th, 2018, and we're going to go over a little startup video for this brand new 3/4 ton Glycol brewery chiller, which we configured and is about to ship out in the next day or so. So what we have here, we have the cover off this unit just for this little video, and we have run and tested this unit extensively. There's two sources of power for this unit. We have installed this 1/2 horsepower Glycol pump onto the chiller deck. This whole black deck pallet, all is supposed to be kept intact. This has its own dedicated 115 volt cord and plug. It also includes this little yellow jumper. Save that, because once your system's up and going, we're going to tell you how to check the amp draw. You simply take the end cover off the Glycol pump here and have a little simple amp meter. And once your system is up and running, we want to check that to make sure that you're not over amping on the Glycol loop. The second is the power cord here, which is another 115 volt plug. That's for the main compressor and condenser portion of your chiller. The pump should be on its own circuit, 15 amp. The compressor condenser combination should be on a circuit, 15 amp, unless you think it's going to get hot in your building environment. And by hot I mean over 95 Fahrenheit, in that range, in which case I'll put more load on the unit. In that case, you may want to have a 20 amp circuit for the compressor condenser portion. So what we have done on this unit is we have put in our own fittings intentionally to service several 3.5 barrel or 5 barrel fermenter and brite tanks. So we have the insulated line, which draws from the reservoir here. There's actually a shut-off here. You don't need to worry about that now. It's just for maintenance. That goes into the suction side of this 1/2 horsepower Glycol pump. This is a step-down bushing here. That remains there. This is just a 3/4 inch plug. Take that out. You're going to have 3/4 inch piping going to the supply line for your Glycol loop. This here is a bypass line we put in, approximately 3/8 of an inch, which draws off the impeller housing. You can leave this when you first start up the unit in the open position, which is parallel to the bypass line. What that is going to do is, when we're up and running, okay, there's always going to be a certain amount of flow. And again, this is the output or supply line from the pump. There's always going to be a certain amount of flow that's going to be coming back to the chiller. So when none of your fermenter tanks are calling for cooling, the chiller pump is not what they call deadheaded. We're getting some flow coming back to the Glycol reservoir here. That does a couple things. That prevents our pump from overheating. Okay. Then it also provides additional turbulence and flow inside the Glycol reservoir to get good heat exchange over that coil heat exchanger that's submerged in that tank. So this is your output, 3/4 inch, and this is going to be your return from your Glycol loop. That's going to be 1 inch. You want your return slightly bigger than the supply. That just makes for the, we don't require any, or there's not any PSI or pressure really requirement on the return. So for that reason, take advantage of that and use a bigger line size on your return, so the pump doesn't have to work that much harder and overcome that pressure. This is your return here. This is a vent for your Glycol. To put Glycol in the system, again, we have the cover off. You can take this little 2-inch diameter plastic lid off to get your Glycol concentration in there. 40 or 45% propylene glycol is ideal. These lines here are not in use. That's from the prior smaller pump that was on there. And this pump button here is no longer active. That was for the original smaller pump that was on here that we removed. and put in place this bigger, heftier half horsepower glycol reservoir. Similarly, this plug you're not going to use, and this pump button's not used. You simply plug this in and it runs all the time. To adjust set point, after the unit goes through its little startup calibration here, and that is how loud, which is not loud, the unit is when it's running. Then it just simply shows it's sensing your tank temperature right now. Right now inside the tank it's 49 degrees or so. To change the set point, that's really the only thing you ever have to do is you press the set button for a couple seconds until you see flashing. See the F flashing there on the right? So you press set for a couple seconds, flashes, then I press the up or down arrows, and then set again. Okay, so now it's set at 28, and then it defaults back to the process value after a couple seconds. To check what set point you have it set at any time, again, just press set for a couple seconds. All right, and you can tell it shows you that I'm set at 28. It's flashing, so I can adjust it up or down. If I don't touch anything, after several seconds, it's just going to default back to what the process value is, which is right now it's 46. So it slowly starts cooling. We don't have any glycol in the tank right now. This is just for demonstration because we have been running it extensively with glycol in it. Conversely, you never want to ever, under any conditions, run your glycol pump dry. Lastly, we're going to include a couple yellow printout cards, placards with very more specific instructions. Those will ship with the chiller. Those take precedence over any other tag information you see on the unit because we did custom configure this with this particular glycol pump. Lastly, when you do your piping out to your reservoirs, you're going to want to have some type of pressure regulator on each one of your fermenter or brite tanks, obviously along with your own controls and solenoid to control the inlet of the cold glycol going into your tanks to control each individual tank temperature. This is just one example of a 3/4 inch pressure regulator. We want to have something like this on each one of your vessels. This one can be adjusted down to 15 psi. So that will protect the jackets in your tank, and it helps maintain the pressure that's going to be in your supply line. As you get into installing the unit, give us a call with any questions at all. So that's about it. You can see since I've been talking, it dropped down in the tank to 32 or so. Nice little unit. We're going to get it all set for shipping on its way out to its new home. This is Scott from KIG. Our website is kigsales.com. Thank you.